Bluetooth connected.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in once again for another episode of Logik's View. Hopefully, y'all can hear me fine and everything. I forgot to cut my microphone on to the last minute. Look like everything going all right, but we shall see. Hope everybody having a good day. um, as the thumbnail says, today we're gonna be watching a video with Curtis Hertel Jr. and Senator Jim Runestad, and they just did this video. It aired on the 6th, so Thursday, and I want to watch it together. What's going on, John Q? How everybody doing today? Yep. So this is from WKAR Public Media from Michigan State University. Uh, I was just gonna watch it and report on it, but it's only 27 minutes, so I figured we could watch it together. So, it's a few other things I wanted to report on today, but I'm gonna do another episode later on this afternoon. So today we gonna just dive right into this debate.
Together for the first time, the two new chairs of the Michigan Democratic and Republican parties. We devote the entire program to our conversation with Curtis Hertel Jr. and State Senator Jim Runestad, an off-the-record exclusive. On the panel, Lauren Gibbons and Craig Mauger. Sit in with us as we get the inside out, off the record.
Production of Off the Record is made possible in part by Bellwether Public Relations, a full-service strategic communications agency partnering with clients through public relations, digital marketing, and issue advocacy. Learn more at bellwetherpr.com. And now, this edition of Off the Record with Tim Skubick.
Very special program, gentlemen. I'd like to thank both of you for accepting our invitation without hesitation. Apparently there's something wrong with both of you, right? Welcome to Off the Record. Let's start, Senator, with this thing from the Republican perspective. Do you think, in retrospect, even though this is on pause, that the president's tariff policies are bad for Michigan's economy?
No. What the president is first and foremost asking is Canada and Mexico stop participating in flooding the nation with illegal immigrants, with fentanyl, with child traffickers, criminal element. That was the number one issue for the people in the United States and the number one people for the people in Michigan. He said, I'm going to put an end to this, and all they have to do is do what any ally of the United States on the border would say. Yes, we'll cooperate. We don't want to flood your country with fentanyl. And they're resisting doing this. This is the number one thing he wants done. He's nuancing this in terms of with the auto industry and pausing where he can to make sure that the auto industry is less impacted. But this is something that's got to be done in order to make sure that our borders are protected.
So tariffs are good?
Obviously, there's a lot of nuance to tariffs. Anyone that says, we know there's a direct correlation when you do this exactly within days that it's going to impact this part of the economy, we don't know. They're very complex in terms of what are the long-term aspects of impact of tariffs.
Well, listen, I think that actually tariffs can be a tool at some point, but these wide-ranging tariffs with that cause a huge, as the president put it, disturbance in people's lives. I think he laughed a little bit after he said disturbance. And when I think about people at their kitchen table, the prices they've been paying, the fact that wages are still stagnant, and all the economic pain that we seem to be in the middle of, the idea that president wouldn't care about those disturbances that are actually happening to people, I think, is incredibly offensive. And when you talk about these level of tariffs, we're talking about in Michigan a significant effect on the auto industry, a significant effect on our farmers, that their job is to feed the world. That's what they do. I think that is the idea that a president would not worry about those people's lives, what he ran on was lowering prices. I didn't hear anything about lowering prices. And in fact, now we're going to actually increase prices for people.
Is he
It's going
right?
to make inflation worse.
He's not right.
No. With tariffs, there's a lot of impacts that could bring industry here to Michigan. That what we're seeing in this nation is an outflooding of our industrial base. This is to help bring some of this back. This is bringing some equality to these tariffs that other nations are trying to destroy our export industry by tariffing way higher than we are, or maybe we're not tariffing at all. So he's bringing some equality back to this. This is going to be helping the state of Michigan in terms of the long-term
So
impact.
first it was about fentanyl, now it's about jobs. But what I would say is that there are ways that on specific products, steel and other things, making protection on tariffs, I think can work. And I think actually there's a good point to be made that free trade has not been beneficial for manufacturing in Michigan. I think that's actually fair. But at the same time, when it's wide-ranging and has this kind of effect on those that actually grow our food and the prices that our people are paying at their kitchen table in a time when inflation has been awful for families, this is not going to make that better. And this was a promise that he made to actually solve our inflation crisis. And there's going to be, while he calls it a disturbance, I don't think a lot of people can afford a disturbance at their kitchen table right now.
Lauren.
Senator, do you think the president is complicating the message by the uncertainty that's happened with the initial threat, then the pause, then some tariffs going into effect, and then the walk back on the autos? Could he be doing this in a way that's a little bit less complicated for people following along at home?
No, it's complex. I know many in the media say, well, you simply do this in a little package and everything is going to be fine. And this is the way economics works. That's not how economics work. Economics is very complex. I have a minor in economics, and I remember going through all the charts and graphs, and they would say, listen, one thing has these other impacts, and it's not all packaged neatly. What he's trying to do is make sure that we are negotiating with these countries that should be our allies, that should be cooperating like any country would, to make sure that we are first and foremost protecting the border. That's what he's asking for. And they're resisting. They say, no, we believe it's our right to have an open border and flood your nation with all of these negative things that the people here in the nation has said we do not want. We want the border closed. It was the #1 issue. He's going forward with the promise he said. It's very unusual. Most presidents I've seen, Republican and Democrat, they said, well, that was all just nonsense I said during the campaign. I'm not going to do that. He's the first president. He's saying, no, that's what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to protect your borders. I'm going to protect your kids. So this is the #1 thing. And yes, it's going to be a little messy early on, but there's a lot of messaging that is so incorrect that a tariff has this absolute impact on this one thing. It's very, very complex. It takes time. He's negotiating his way through it and following through on what he told the people he was going to do.
Now, I agree with Senator Runestad. You know, uh, Curtis Hertel keep talking about people can't afford what the damage that tariffs may do. People can't afford life right now. The auto industry in Michigan is decimated. It's been decimated. You keep talking about the auto industry. What auto industry? Compared to where we used to be in Michigan, it is decimated. Trump trying to bring factories back to Michigan because these one-sided international deals is screwing America over. Trump trying to turn it around. And then I gotta look up and see what's the difference between tariffs and taxes. Because we getting taxed to death here in America, especially here in Michigan. And if tariffs and taxes is basically the same thing, the Democrats is okay with us being tariffed slash taxed to death, but when Trump want to tariff other countries to bring money and business back to America, it's a problem. But it ain't no problem with tariffing us to death, because all I see is tariff is just a tax on imports and exports, and we get taxed for everything from breathing to dying to living, and it's no problem with the Dems to tariff and tax us. But when Trump want to tariff other countries and bring money back, bring corporations and business back to America, it's a huge problem. Come on, make it make sense, man.
Well, I don't think we have a giant immigration problem with Canada. So the idea that we're actually going to affect people's lives. I mean, you said it's a little messy. Well, a little messy means a lot more to somebody who is actually trying to make ends meet. That's making a decision whether they can send one kid to college or afford to send two, whether they can buy prescription drugs or actually afford to buy food that month. We have the promise that was made in this campaign was that the price of eggs, we heard about the price of eggs all the time, that those would go down under this administration. That's not happening, and this
Oh,
makes
my
that
goodness.
absolutely worse, and there's no
Wow.
question of that. So I think at some point when you say you're going to keep your promises, I think the number one promise they made to the American people was that inflation would slow down. That is absolutely not happening, and it's no question that tariffs make that worse.
The idea that within less than 100 days he's going to bring inflation down, the price of eggs are going to come plummeting down. Again,
He said those exact words. So, I mean,
nothing in economics is instantaneous. These all take time. If there is no economist that say you pull a lever and instantly everything in the country changes on that day. It's not how things work. It takes time. But what does take an instant impact, what does take an instant issue with the people is your child just died of fentanyl because the nation is being flooded. 110,000 citizens dying of fentanyl every year because we have an open border flooding with fentanyl coming across this border. We need a partner on the north and south. And yes, I have talked to many people on border control and over in Canada and said, yes, there is a problem of people coming across this negative impact across the Canadian border. Why they say no, we insist we're going to work against your country, against your people, to flood your nation with criminals, with fentanyl, with child traffickers. Just stop. Just help us. No, we insist we got to do this. I've never seen a so-called ally that behaves the way that Canada and Mexico are behaving. Just help us. And they say, no, we're not going to do it.
So a couple things. One, everyone wants to solve the fentanyl problem. That's
them, apparently.
No, I think that everybody in America does, and I think that there were more investments in scanning and everything else that actually were blocked for political reasons. But at the same time, the president has praised what Mexico has actually done on the border right now.
You forced him to do it.
Well, but that was before the tariffs run. So my question to you again is, why do the people have to pay the pain? Why do they have to pay more in taxes? Why do people that are at home trying to make decisions for their family, why is it worth it to actually increase their cost? That's my question.
Again, you're assuming that you have a tariff and the next day there's an immediate economic impact across the entire economy. That is not how it works. One of the things he did when there was
your whole life.
one of the things, because it's not the same thing. It's not. It's trying to cause equality with our partners that we are dealing with in terms of trade. So what he's doing and has done is said, or if there's an impact here on this segment of the farm industry, we're going to help them with some subsidies from the tariffs. So the idea that these things are so easily put in a box, it's not. He may have to make adjustments. He's going to be making adjustments on a continuous basis depending on what the impacts are.
Mr.
But he's
Mauger,
followed
Mr.
through on
Mauger.
his promise.
Chairman Hertel,
Yes,
what
sir.
is the Michigan Democratic Party's position on tariffs? You have certain members.
Now, I just want to say before we get into this question from Mr. Mauger, if you look at the past several years, Michigan small businesses have been under attack. The farming industry has been under attack, and the auto industry. So the left want to blame these tariffs and Trump policies on decimating and destroying industries that's already been destroyed and been uh, consistently being destroyed under these radical left policies. So they just trying to shift the blame game onto Trump and his extreme policies because we need extreme change. We need to turn the tables around and to make America greater than it's been, better than it's been. We got to reverse a lot of these policies, which it's not just the radical left policies, it's the uniparty working together to push these agendas and policies to systematically destroy America. So it takes some extreme measures to reverse this stuff, you know. So we gonna see.
On a continuous basis, depending on what the impacts are.
Mr.
But he's
Mauger,
followed
Mr.
through on
Mauger.
his promise.
Chairman Hertel,
Yes,
what
sir.
is the Michigan Democratic Party's position on tariffs? You have certain members, leadership members of the Democratic Party in Michigan saying this is devastating. You have Governor Whitmer saying, well, I don't like tariffs, but there are some times that they can be good, and we need to find common ground with President Trump. And then you have the UAW putting out a positive statement about the tariffs. What is your party's position on
I
this?
want to be perfectly clear that you can believe all those things, and they're not actually they're not incongruent. I do believe that
What?
tariffs can be used, and that it is true that fair trade has actually hurt the manufacturing industry, and certainly hurt the auto industry, and certainly hurt auto workers, and that's a fair point. At the same time, this chaotic tariffs one day, no tariffs the next, on all goods, not considering what the actual effects are, and what will happen with our farmers in the auto industry in the meantime, and the cost of goods for every family is wrong. And so you can believe that tariffs are a tool that can work. It's just that this massive number with very little planning and huge effects on an economy where families are hurting right now, that an entire campaign was promising we're going to lower the cost for people, and then to do this first, I think is a problem.
Gentlemen,
so I don't think those two things are necessary. You could say tariffs can be used without actually saying that these tariffs are a good idea.
Gentlemen, post-election, there was a polling data that suggested a
Now that didn't make no sense what he just said.
bunch of people in this country and in this state are fed up with the rhetoric from the two political parties, always bickering, always fighting, always charging with the other person. One, that attitude is out there, yay or nay?
I would say the discourse has become more negative, I would say, in the last...
And they are fed up with it.
In the last 5 years, yeah. Some of the, on both sides, certainly, to the degree that you're saying that if this person is elected, and some of this happened on both sides, if this person elected, your rights are over. You'll be thrown in a gulag. You'll be tortured to death. You know, these are fascists. These are communists. These are, you know, when none of that is true, is beyond the pale. And yeah, I think that's very destructive.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think we've had a Trumpification of our politics. I think that it's gotten coarser and meaner.
Trump is the victim of almost all of this, but go ahead.
You know, I mean, you start your first campaign by coming down the staircase and, you know, talking about, you know, banning Muslims from this country. I don't know. I don't know if you can say that he's only the victim of it, but I do think there's become a coarser part of our politics.
All right, so in light of that, since we agree on the premise, here's the question. The relationship between the two of you, do you look one another in the eye and say, I will never attack you, I will not come after you personally, I will play above boards? In other words, can we have a semi-peace agreement between the two of you that you won't feed into this attitude that's out there?
Listen, I think that there are certain things that go beyond the pale. Having just run for Congress, I know the negative attacks that can be and the spin that can be put on things. I do think that there should be lines. I think one of them should be we never attack each other's families. I think that's a big one that I think is unfortunately that line's been crossed many times in politics recently, and I think it needs to end. I think personal attacks are inappropriate. But I think if we're talking about record, I mean, I got no problem talking about our, you know, the Democratic Party's record, the Republican Party's record, or Jim and I, or in my record. I mean, I think that there is a space for truth and honesty in all of this. But I do think that the personal distortions have gotten out of control in politics. I do agree with that.
Do you agree with him?
Yes, I'm sure that Curtis and I, over the next 2 years, are going to find a lot of fault with each other's policies, positions, maybe the way it's being messaged, and we're going to argue about that. But to say he's a bad person, or you know he wants to destroy the state of Michigan, no, that kind of stuff should be left out of the arena. It should be the ideas. Now, what I enjoy as we started this segment here is bantering humorously against you and he, or he and I, arguing, or not, kind of just giving each tell the hard time in a humorous way. That's to me much more what we should be doing than cutting into somebody personally.
Senator, a question for you. We were talking about lowering prices earlier, and you said, it's not reasonable to expect the prices to come down immediately. President Trump did say when he was campaigning, I'm going to start making America affordable again on day one. Give us
making, not
okay. So
make.
if we start from that, what is a reasonable date for people in Michigan to start seeing prices come down again?
So if people can rewind back and remember during Trump's first terms, all the chaos that the radical left-controlled states were causing all across the nation, they was pushing back against every policy that Trump put in place. They was causing chaos and riots and division. It was just massive pushback against everything Trump tried to do, and they openly opposed everything he tried to do. And they doing it. They gonna do it again this time. But the thing is, the damage that the financial suffering that the people of America and Michigan we've all been going through has been happening gradually over decades. It's not something that just happened during the past 4 or 8 or 12 years. It's something that's been gradually getting worse, and it's going to take time to turn it around gradually. So people expecting, if y'all look back even in the last 2 years, all the chicken factories that was burning up and catching fire all across the nation, chip factories, egg factories, chicken factories, all these food producing factories all over the country have been going up in flames, and it's been happening so much. It's like it's hard to be a coincidence when it's happening. It's like an orchestrated manner, and then next thing you know, that it's a bird flu, and the next thing you know, uh, only cage-free eggs, and next thing you know, eggs is $9, $10 a carton. So these is policies that's gradually been happening, or things that's gradually been happening in an orchestrated manner. And now Trump's supposed to just come in and reverse it all when he's facing pushback from so many ways. And this stuff didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. But
What he's doing right now with Elon Musk is, and I was just looking last night at the polling was, I think it was 54% positive and around 30% negative. And a lot of the media has been saying he is slashing these services. Oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end. And a lot of the media is pushing that out there. That is not what's happening. They're trying to get the budget under control. We're spending $2 trillion, borrowing $2 trillion every single year, and the people know it. They see what happens with inflation. Historically, always, the reason you have a massive inflation, the government starts printing money, vapor and paper money all over the place, and now the prices are going up. They're trying to get that under control. Trying to get this federal spending under control is what's going to drive those prices down. The tariffs are not what's going to be having this big impact on the prices overall.
Exactly.
There's a lot of nuance, and he's going to be working on that over time. What he's trying to do right away today, as you said, start today, trying to get the costs under control, getting inflation under control, control the federal spending. If we don't do that, this economy at some point will crash. The dollar is going to be worthless. The entire middle class, all their money is going to be absolutely worthless if we do not stop the inflation of federal spending, and that's what they're working on.
Is it reasonable?
And that's a good point. That's a good point, because he said we borrowing $2 trillion a year. Who are we borrowing it from? Who are we borrowing it from? The Federal Reserve, the central banking system, you know what I'm saying? The Trilateral Commission, the Bank of London. Who is we borrowing this money from, first of all? And how much interest we got to pay, and why they get to print endless money, and why they ain't accountable to nobody, and why they put this policy into place in 1913 on Dr. Jekyll Island, and why ain't nobody exposing this, and when is we gonna reverse what happened in 1913? and take our control back from the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. When is we gonna get to the root of a lot of this stuff? Oh, this game is over, man. We need to tear it down. And like Trump, he just ended the I believe he ended the printing of the pennies. If it costs 2 cents to make 1 cent, then we just go in. Make it make sense. No pun intended. It don't make sense. So Trump ended that. People could say that's radical extreme. It's not economically smart. It's debt. It's creating debt. All this borrowing. And debt is a slave-based system. Debt. We owe these Rockefeller, Rothschild, CFR, globalists, bankers. We just borrow from them, and Trump trying to flip this joint over and take it back. It's a systematic approach, and the people at the top, we coming for them last. We got to break this stuff down. Anyway, let me get back to the dang video.
For people in Michigan to expect egg prices to be cheaper at some point in 2026?
Oh, I think they absolutely will. I think it's the
So
prices
some
are
point
going to
next year, you think they'll be cheaper?
They may start coming down this year. There's so many things that we can do. Like he said, what we're going to have to do with these tariff dollars in some cases is propping up or subsidizing some industries that are negatively impacted. Other industries are going to do extremely well because now they're not competing with cheap foreign goods that are subsidized by another nation. So again, these are not things that you just pull a lever, there's instantaneous change, everything's in a box. That's not how economics works.
So when they talk about cutting the cost of government, I think that all of us are for cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. But we have people that work in the VA that treat our veterans that are losing their jobs right now. We have people whose health care is at risk with the cuts in Medicaid, all to pay for tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. This idea that we have to live in this chaos and that some billionaire in the White House has our personal Social Security information and gets to actually make the decisions on what's cut when he has government contracts and none of them are being cut, I think is a real problem. And so I'm all for cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, but is that the guy at the VA who's treating our veterans? Is that the woman that I spoke to who is studying cancer drugs at U of M, who's now lost her fellowship and might not even go to college next year while she's studying the future of whether we can actually cure cancer or not? I mean, these are indiscriminate cuts that are happening, and they affect real people. And while the minor disturbance may not be much for somebody who's a billionaire working in the White House, it certainly is to these families. And so, to me, that's the issue. So you say we want to right-size government. I'm proud to have that conversation, but it can't be done on the backs of our veterans while you're giving millionaires tax cuts.
The American people aren't buying this, that they're indiscriminate cuts. They specifically asked them, do they believe these cuts are really cutting the lard and the waste out? And they said yes, because the left is saying, no, every single one of these jobs is absolutely critical. The people aren't buying that.
Tom Barrett, who's the congressman for this district, who certainly beat me in an election, said last week that the veterans cuts that are happening, the cuts in veteran fares need to be researched. Because it didn't do it until actually Senator Slotkin brought somebody who actually lost their job that was treating people in Ann Arbor, our veterans, and then Tom offered him a job in his office, but now is saying that he wants to look into these cuts. So it's not just, you can put out polls of what people believe. I'm not sure that that's actually what's important. What I think is actually important is what the actual effects on families are right now. And the idea that you would cut taxes for billionaires in this country and cut veteran services should never happen.
When the Biden administration was there, the veteran program was a crash and burn. What you're saying is every one of those veterans, those veteran administrators, was vitally important. We had to have every single one. No, there was so much layers of fat and worthless people that should have been drummed out of there. And if there are people that we need to streamline, not every single person there, every one of them, and every department all across the entire bureaucracy is all vitally important. That's what I hear from the Democrats. In fact, we need to hire more of them. No, we're going to go bust. There has to be some decisions made, and I haven't heard anything of this catastrophic free fall that the Democrats are saying, oh my God, the sky is falling. The people aren't buying it. That's not what's happening. They're looking very judiciously at these. If they have to move that number back and forth to make sure that the services are met, but we're reducing costs, that's what they're going to do.
I guess in instances where the federal government may be cutting back, whether it's research grants at universities, or I was reporting the other day about historic federal buildings that are being looked at to be disposed of by the federal government. What's the state's role in this, or even local government's role? Is there anything that should or could be done at the state level to maybe mitigate some of the, from your perspective, damage, or is this are these cuts across the board, Senator? Are they good for Michigan?
Well, I don't think that, again, when you say across the board, they're being judicious. That is what the people are seeing. It is not just slash and burn. We're just going to slash all over the place. Elon Musk is using a laser beam, not a meat cleaver, as so much in the Democrat Party is saying. So there's some federal buildings that may come up for sale. Right now, in commercial buildings all over the United States, they're in free fall ever since we had COVID. People aren't coming to work at the same levels. So you have buildings all over the place that before were all full, and now there's huge vacancies on these things. So looking at what we're paying for these, how many of these employees are coming in, how many can we get to come back, is something that, again, is not something you just pull the lever, everything happens instantaneously. We got to be looking at the cost cutting and all these commercial buildings that the government may be renting or owning, and looking at that and where can we cut cost is a good thing.
The idea that they're being judicious is absolute nonsense. I mean, for example, they cut people at the nuclear regulatory division that actually made sure that our nuclear weapons were actually safe. They had to hire them back 2 days later. They couldn't figure out where their emails were any longer because they had shut all those down to even get them back to work. So this idea that it's been judicious is also nonsense. In terms of your question of whether the state can step up, I'm not sure. Yesterday, what we saw was a budget that was passed before anybody looked at it. As a shutdown plan that wouldn't allow for transportation of kids to schools, would have cut child protective services, would have cut food assistance for people, didn't include Medicaid coverage. By the way, completely non-transparent. I watched my good friend here on this show, I think it was from 3 years ago, and said there should be 72 hours before we pass a budget bill, and complained that people didn't have more than 24 hours to read it. They had 20 minutes to read it and vote on what was passed yesterday. I mean, are you going to be critical of Matt Hall the same way that you were critical of the Democratic leaders last time?
What you're referencing is all these cuts is not cuts. What happened, there was a $47 billion budget that had to be passed last year to finish out the budget. The Democrats fumbled the ball and they didn't get it done when they had the trifecta. So now that's sitting there, and there has to be a negotiation for the Republicans to weigh in and pass that. So they said there's $20 billion in things everyone can agree on, making sure we're increasing the funding on schools and on the police and veterans and all these programs we all can agree on. And that is something that they put forward to be passed yesterday. And the Democrats all voted against it. But the situation is they're trying to make sure that we do not have a shutdown going forward. Mallory McMorrow in October said, we're going to have a shutdown. This we're hearing the messaging from the Democrats constantly. So they're trying to say, let's make sure we do not have a shutdown with everything we agree we have to have. All these other things we can add as time goes on.
I don't understand this whole fumbled the ball thing. Literally, Matt Hall left the field. He was sitting out in the rotunda. You can't pass a bill if a majority of legislators aren't actually willing to come to work. I served in the minority my entire time in the legislature. I went and made the argument. I went and fought. I never sat out in the rotunda and cried about not getting out of the
Whatever,
way.
bro.
We actually tried to make things done. But how could you blame Democrats for not closing the budget when it's Republicans who wouldn't actually go to vote and work?
Why would the Democrats controlled everything? The House, the governor, the Senate, everything. Man, come on, man, get out of here.
The Democrats had all that time to pass that
You can't
budget.
close books in those times, so that's not true. So I mean, I was on the Appropriations Committee, so were you. So you actually have to pass it during lame duck. Republicans were in the rotunda, and now
Why are
you're
they
blaming
saying- why is
Democrats
it-
for them not going to work. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Oh my
Gentlemen, very quickly,
goodness,
the
dude.
governor says we can't fix the roads without a tax increase. From a cross-political standpoint, as Democratic Party chair, that's a non-starter for you, isn't it?
What's an answer?
Man, I see why so many people get out of politics because this was freaking circus. They sit around here talking about the old way the game was played, the way the old guard, this Tim Skubick dude, people saying he a leftist Democrat. It don't surprise me. Most media people are leftist Democrats. They get put in that position. But for them talking about the roads and the budget, and Gretchen say she can't fix. She just doubled the state budget from 40 something billion to 83 billion and still complaining about not having enough money to fix the roads. Man, get out of here. Freaking, it's a big money laundering scheme. If we want to talk about the realness, Michigan is a deep state stronghold. These crooked politicians been running rampant, doing their own thing, creating generational wealth for their bloodlines and families and screwing over the people, pushing these evil agendas on us, not caring about neither one of us, none of us. We just human cattle.
Starter.
Raising taxes?
Listen, I think that
Is she right?
I think that that we've always.
Yeah,
That's a
I'm
non-starter
so
for
sick
you,
of this
isn't it?
crap.
What's a non-starter?
Raising taxes?
Listen, I think that
Is she right?
I think that that we've always had to actually find revenue for roads. I was for revenue for roads when I was in the
So
legislature.
a tax increase is needed.
I think you need to actually solve it with solving the structural problems as well. So we have the highest truck weights in Michigan. We should fix that. We should fix the insanity of how we fund roads by lane mile, which is or by mile of road and not lane mile, not where we actually have the most damage.
All right,
Counties like yours and Open County are actually a donor county when it comes to roads. We
I
should
need to
fix
give
that.
the senator just 5 seconds to say you're wrong.
As night follows day, the Democrats want to increase taxes. No, we do not need to increase taxes. Matt Hall has a great plan that all of the gas tax is going to go on the roads, and then we're going to use the first portion of the sales tax to fund the schools. We do not need to increase taxes.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's good to see both of you. Good luck in your new assignments, and hang in there, okay?
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Same here.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Production of Off the Record.
There you go. We need some new media, boy. I'm telling you, we got these softball, whack job, old school questions. We need to get to the. Now, Jim Runestad did a great job. Curtis Hertel Jr., whoever he is, the Democrat chair of the party, he like old school, traditional, the way the game played. Get up here, beat around the bush. The Republicans are bad, Orange Man bad, and you know what I'm saying? Get up here and sound smart and play the game. Play your part. You know, he get up there. Now Jim is trying to expose the bureaucracy and he exposing the opposition and he stands strong because he in the middle of the Senate and the politics and he got economics degrees and all that. You can't run him around. So, you know, I'm glad we got a good, strong GOP chair and not know what Meshawn Maddox. Praise the Lord. Ugh. Now we got to work on this 2026 governor's race. We got the AG, the governor, and the Secretary of State, man. We got to we got to get on the ball. We got to get on the ball. It's a lot going on. Just heard that James Craig is running for Detroit mayor. He just signed his paperwork. Um, so that's interesting. And before we get out of here, a couple more things I want to discuss pertaining to Michigan. Um, I had told y'all I was supposed to be going down to Detroit with it was supposed to be 100 Black Republicans going down to to DC. My fault, not Detroit. Down to DC to demand fair elections and to expose election fraud that happened with evidence in Detroit. I didn't get to go because I was having brake problems with my vehicle. But Pastor Sewell, Lorenzo Sewell, and Ramon Jackson, um, warriors down there in Detroit, in the inner cities, fighting for the Republican Party, the fighting for Trump, fighting for civil rights, fair elections, fighting for to get more people involved. Um, they doing good things down there, and there's Chip Roy right there and some other legislators. I was supposed to be down there with them, but couldn't make it. But I'm glad they got to get down there and represent and shine a light on this important topic. We know what happened in Detroit during the 2020 and 2022 and 2024 elections. Just play a little bit of this real quick.
I have been unable to get a conversation with any Democrats about fair elections. Look at this. We have no rep from Michigan here with us. We all come from Detroit, and we don't got one of our federal reps down here representing. We got Chip Roy from a whole nother state. This brother right here this is who coming down here to represent us. Another thing, last but not least, the false narrative that only whites think elections is being stolen. That's a fabrication, and this shows these black people, Democrats, Republicans, Muslims, Christians, and the like, and we all here from one cause. We need fair elections in Detroit. So that narrative about only white Republicans think elections is fair is debunked. She's a Democrat. She's been a Democrat. This is my sister. I voted for her, and I'm a Republican. I voted for her not because her party, because she's the best person for that job. Not because so at the end of the day, this is what I have been unable.
Shouts out to brother Ramon Jackson right there, down there. I was supposed to be down there with them, but man, where we go, when we go, we all working together to expose the facade, expose the deception and the corruption. Got Pastor Lorenzo Sewell right there, and you know, a lot of people. You look at the comment sections. A lot of people is happy that they went down here representing. You know what I'm saying? So everybody doing their little part all over. You know, all over. Couple other things. Here's a story corroborating that effort with brother Ramon Jackson and Pastor Sewell. This is an article put out almost 9 years ago, but it's showing that it's been a problem in Detroit with the voting machines and just the election process overall. This is an article from December 13th, 2016. Too many votes in 37% of Detroit's precincts. So it's an ongoing issue that got worse. 2016 didn't compare at all to 2020. Man, they went all in 2020. So Hillary overwhelmingly prevailed in Detroit and Wayne County. You know what I'm saying? So we got problems down there. Can't nobody deny it. Pastor Lorenzo and Ramon, they down there in the belly of the beast. They see it firsthand. They hear the complaints from both sides, and they demanding the light be shined on it. So shouts out to them. Wish I could have made it down there. It would have been a great opportunity. But you know, the war wages on. The war wages on. Uh, Another thing I want to show before I get out of here, important, man. That's what I'm talking about. Warriors everywhere. Warriors everywhere. This is a EDA conversation. The vote by St. Clair County Commissioners to stop funding them. To stop funding them. And man, they stood strong. So I want to give shouts out to each and every one of the commissioners up here. They voiced their opinions. They exposed the EDA, saying how it's actually a nonprofit organization, a NGO, masquerading as a pro-environmental organization. They said it's not governed by a board of elected officials, which and it gets hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, and they tired of it. They tired of it, and they putting a stop to it. I think one of the commissioners' names was Steve Samasco. I'm not sure, but I think that was his name, and the other commissioners as well that stood strong against the EDA, which is the Environmental Development Alliance, and they give these NGOs these beautifully sounding names to fool the residents and the voters into thinking this is something beneficial or something federal, just like the Federal Reserve is not a federal organization. It's a private organization, but it sounds federal, but it's not. They did that purposely. They do that stuff purposely to fool people. So these commissioners pointed it out and they exposed it good. And they said they are not going to continue, and they expressed their reasoning why in a wonderful way. I encourage y'all to go check this out if y'all can find it on Facebook. Watch the full video. I'll play a minute or two of it. It was some very good parts in here.
County with what we requested from them. So I want to make that point clear. And that's another reason not to continue, because they do not want to even consider the items that we have there, and they would negotiate with it. But to me, this is a lot of money that the county does, $300,000 and in kind, possibly up to $400,000. I have 6 townships that I represent. 5 have resolutions. They do not support the EDA. IRA does, of course, and they have a contract with the EDA, and they made that decision as a municipality. I believe there's 9 municipalities total. So, and in the letter that was also sent from EDA, that they will be representing those 9 communities. The others can be represented by them if they get in a contractual agreement with them to get their services. Well, the entirety of the funds that have been dedicated to EDA, that covers the entire residents throughout St. Clair County, and I don't want to limit it to just 9 of them. So that was another reason I don't think we should go forward with this.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners?
Right here, right here. Watch
Steve?
this.
You know,
Steve.
I've looked at this for a long time. I've been on the board initially. I was elected in 2007, and I've really tried to understand what the Economic Alliance of St. Clair County is, and I've spent more time recently because of the important nature of it. And I've communicated with Corporation Counsel on some things. I just want to put in perspective, you know, what is the EDA? The EDA is clearly not a Economic Development Corporation under the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Act, Act 338 of 1974. It is, in fact, by LARA filings, a nonprofit corporation under the Michigan General Corporation Act, Act 327 of 1931. Not unlike any other corporation with a purpose. It could be a yacht club, it could be the Alley Center, it could be anything. And they have a purpose and they pursue it, but they are definitely, and I've come to this in the last few weeks, just based on efforts researching some laws and looking at some filings at the county clerk's office. And in addition, in looking at LARA, for whatever reason, Economic Development Alliance of St. Clair County, entity number
Get 'em.
822, oh, that's the old one, 800885851 is under the General Corporation Act, and they have another one, Economic Development Alliance Foundation, that was incorporated in 1982. Same name except for a little tweak on it, and it's under the Nonprofit Corporation Act, Act 162 of 1982. My point is, I always thought, and it's what bothered me, I guess, I always thought that the St. Clair County Economic Development Alliance was connected to St. Clair County in some fashion, government as a government or quasi-government entity. I was confused on it, but it is not. So, and I think I owe an apology to Lisa Beeden because a while back she put some money towards a NGO, non-governmental organization. I said,
All right, so I don't want to play too much of that, but that Steve that's talking right now does a wonderful job dissecting and explaining and exposing the difference between an NGO and an actual in compliance association or alliance. It's a 12-minute video. I encourage y'all to try to find it on Facebook. Angie Dufresne put that out. Clyde Township, Michigan, No Solar Farms Public Group. Sure you can find the video, but very good little short watch. I tell you, if we had commissioners like this in every county and across Michigan, we would be getting rid of the swamp on a county level. This is where it starts, local level, the commissioners, the board of commissioners. We need courageous, bold, experienced, and wise commissioners, God-fearing warriors who understand the deception and the agendas being pushed by the enemy. But I tell y'all, man, go watch that full little 12 and 13-minute video, and you see these warrior commissioners standing strong for the people of Michigan. It is encouraging to see. And it wasn't just Steve up there. It was at least 3 of them in this video that spoke against it and stood strong and boldly. And it was beautiful to watch. Very beautiful and encouraging. All right, so we're approaching an hour right now. Let me see what else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think I touched on most of the stuff. Lastly, man, I encourage y'all to share, like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, in case they shut down any of my channels. I'm also on X, streaming on X now. Also got my website up. And for those of y'all who didn't know, www.logicsview.com. Just did some updates on the site. Look at this, man. Look at these warriors. We got Bob Cushman over here with the Michigan's Corruption Explained website. If y'all haven't been there, y'all missing out. If you're a true warrior for God and country trying to expose corruption in Michigan, you probably already know about this website. But if you don't, click this tab. It'll take you right there to Bob Cushman's website, like so. Michigan's Corruption Explained. Man, Bob Cushman do it like no other. It's a blessing to have him in our state and on our side. Great Lake Patriots, Sister Andrea Pascal, and other patriots. Check that out. Click there. We got Sister Carla Wagner with Ask My Tax. You know what I'm saying? Video we did together. Learn more about her. Click here. Learn about the Ask My Tax organization and the initiative. Man, it's going down. Click on Logic View. We got Pat Colbeck's website up here, baby. You know what I'm saying? Click right there. You take you straight to Pat Cole. Look at that. Look at that, boy. Logic View putting it together. Been working on my online shop. That's coming along. But, man, I'm telling you, the website coming along. God is good. We got the Patriots Corner over here. Last several years out here. Oh, man, such good memories. God is good. All over the state of Michigan, man. We out here. We out here. So sign up on logics.com Logik's View. Join my little newsletter thing I'm working on. Share the website. It's a place where you can, every warrior for God and country should know about this place. I'm gonna keep adding more websites and more links. I'm about to add 2AEDU up here because he a warrior. You know what I'm saying? About to put more warriors. It's always changing and whatnot. So you know, but yeah, man, we back out here. God is good. Hope y'all having a good day. And the war wages out. So thanks for spending a little time with your boy. Thank y'all for tuning back in once again for another episode of Logic View. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like, share, drop comments, and even prayer requests down below. And also subscribe so you can stay notified each and every time our weekly content is uploaded. Just got my business cards in today. Let me show y'all these real quick. Got these boys in today. I wish I'd have had these boys at the convention and last year too, man. Doing my t-shirt stand, man. I have been passing these boys out all year. Got my business cards. I mean, not business card, podcast cards, whatever. But I could have passed these boys out at convention. Trying to rebuild my channel, man. I had thousands of subscribers before they shut my channel down a couple years ago. Trying to rebuild. It's a process dealing with these algorithms. That's why I encourage y'all to like, share, drop comments, and even prayer requests down below. It all helps the channel grow so I can become one of Michigan's premier and most trusted citizen journalists and warriors for God and country. God bless y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you, Sister Mary. Man, that's what I'm talking about, man. A lot of people was with me even on my first channel. People loved, you know what I'm saying? Warriors, the body of Christ, we supposed to love each other. We supposed to fight together and all that good stuff. And many of us do. Many of us do. So, look like Marty waking up out there, man. God bless y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all. Peace.